Hi everyone, this is section 2.1 of integrated 2, day 1 on rational and radical forms. Okay, so the first thing we need to go over is this general radical here. So you might have seen this symbol before. We call it a square root, or it's usually a squared root, but this is actually called a radical, or a root. It's not always a squared root, okay? This variable x stands for your radicand. M is your exponent, and n is your index number. Okay, so you're going to be hearing me going back and forth between these names. So this is something that you really need to know. Now, when you go from a radical to a rational exponent, okay, and rational just means it's a fraction. Now, when you go from a radical to a rational exponent, the exponent becomes the top number in a fraction, and the index number becomes your bottom number. And again, this is in a fraction. Okay, and I'll show you an example of that in a little bit. Okay, so in radical form, it has a square root in your answer, so you will see that in your final answer. And in rational form, or rational exponent, you will have, it has an exponent, or excuse me, a fraction as an exponent. Okay, so we're going to be going back and forth between these forms. We're going to be going from, a radical, like I have above, to x to the m over n, a rational exponent function. Okay? Remember that m, your exponent, becomes the top number, and n, your index number, becomes the bottom number in that fraction. All right, so example number 1, we're going to convert from radical to rational exponents. Okay, so I'm looking at letter A. I have the third root of 16. Okay, so your exponent here, if they don't write 1, remember that if they don't write an exponent, there is an invisible 1 there. So this 1 will become my top number, and this 3 will become my bottom number in a fraction. So this is actually 16 to the 1/3 power, and that's it. Okay, next one. I have 2 and 3. So I have 8 is 8 to the 2/3 power, since my exponent is 2 and the index is 3. Okay, and we're just going to go ahead and try these next two. Pause the video and try C and D, please. Okay, so for C, I have 4 as my index, 2 as my exponent, so I get 3 to the 2/4 power. However, I could simplify 2 over 4. 2 over 4 is the same thing as 1/2, so my final answer is actually 3 to the 1/2 power. So make sure you can simplify if you need it. If you can simplify, you want to simplify, because I'm going to give you answers in simplified form. Okay, and then the last one, D. I don't see any exponent, so that's going to be a 1 again, and I don't see any number as my index number. So when that happens, it is a squared root, right? So a square root, the number is 2. So just like an exponent has just like a number has an invisible exponent of 1, a square root has an invisible number of 2. Okay, so this will actually be 14 to the 1/2 power. All right, example 2, we're going to convert from rational to radical form. Okay, so now we're going the other way around. Okay, so I have 1 over 3. Again, remember, this is now your exponent and this is now your index. So I get 2 on the inside of the root. My exponent is 1. My index is 3. Okay, now I do not need to put that number 1. You can if you want. I will not take points off if you don't. Okay, so either of them is fine. Okay, again, the 7 is your exponent. The 3 is your index. So I get 4 in the root, 3 as the index, 7 as the exponent. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, and try letter C. Okay, letter C, I have the 5th root of x squared. Okay, all right, now, letter D, I put a star next to it because this one's a little different. Now I have two variable and number, so 2 terms instead of just 1. Okay, so, but it is in parentheses, so that means that this exponent is being applied to both of those. So both of those are going to go inside the root, and then it's the same thing as before. My index number would be 8, and then the exponent would be 7. However, because you have more than one term here, more than one variable, I am going to put parentheses around it because that's telling me that the 7 exponent is being applied to both the 3 and the a, not just the a. Okay, so be careful. And then the last one, if I go ahead and did 5 to the 1/2, I have the square root of 5 to the first power, or if you want to rewrite it as the square root of 5, that is fine as well, since you don't have to write the invisible 1 or the invisible 2. That's it.